Hello, you're kicking off the Sunday's edition of QPVN Election News Bulletin. You're with Milinchi and here come the headlines. Party state leaders pay tribute to revolutionary imprisoned in Cundao. Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces senior officer visits Vietnam Military History Museum. Vietnam aims to attract high-quality foreign investment. On May 3rd, at Hang Keo and Hang Dung War cemeteries in Côn Đảo district, Bà Rịa Vũng Tàu, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính and representatives of the party, state militaries and central agencies offered incense in tribute to heroic martyrs and patriotic compatriots who sacrificed their lives for national independence and reunification, and attended the meeting in tribute to Vietnamese revolutionaries who were captured and imprisoned in Côn Đảo on the occasion of the 50th anniversary of Liberation Day. The delegation led with offered incense and observed a minute of silence to commemorate the great contribution of the heroic martyrs, revolutionaries, and patriots who fell on Côn Đảo land for the cause of national liberation and reunification. At the meeting, Prime Minister Phạm Minh Chính sent words of encouragement and deep gratitude and gave gifts to the veteran revolutionaries, heroic Vietnamese mothers, heroes of the People's Armed Forces, former political prisoners, wounded veterans, martyrs' families, and people with revolutionary contribution who were captured and imprisoned in Côn Đảo, Hòa Lò, Sơn La, Phú Quốc, and Chí Hòa prisons. The Prime Minister voiced his hope that the families of the national contributors will further promote traditions and educate younger generations to make more contributions to building a prosperous homeland. General Phan Van Giang, Minister of National Defense, recently sent a letter to the officers and soldiers participating in the parade to celebrate the 80th anniversary of the victory in the Great Patriotic War of Russia. The minister's attention and encouragement have added motivation for its servicemen to carry out better practice. In the letter, Minister Phan Van Giang acknowledged and highly appreciated the will, efforts, and determination of the participating officers and soldiers, emphasizing that the coming days are the time of decisive significance to the task performance, hoping that the servicemen would further promote the spirit of the April 30th, 1975 victory of the Vietnamese people, strengthen solidarity and coordination to excellently completing the task, turning such will and determination into accurate, smooth, beautiful, strong, majestic movements on the Red Square of Russia, contributing to brightening the image of the Vietnamese country, people, and Vietnam People's Army, is serving the trust of the party, the state, the Central Military Commission, the Ministry of National Defense, and the Home Military. After reading the minister's letter, each of us is more aware of our responsibility, honor, and pride when representing the Vietnam People's Army to participate in parade on the occasion of the Russian Victory Day. Receiving the letter of encouragement from the Minister of National Defense, we are given more motivation to overcome adversities so that we could excellently complete the task assigned by the party, state, and military. On May 3rd, thousands of people flocked to the Vietnam Military History Museum in Hanoi. Among them was a special delegation. It was the high-ranking delegation of the Cuban Revolutionary Armed Forces, led by Chief of the Political Directorate, Lieutenant General Victor Leonardo Joro Ramos. The Cuban delegation was briefed on the patriotic tradition of the Vietnamese people and visited the exhibition area showcasing the foundation of the Communist Party of Vietnam, the Vietnam People's Army, against the resistance wars fought by the Vietnamese people for the sake of the country's independence, stability, and unity. The Cuban general expressed his impression of the heroic history of the Vietnamese people in defending and developing the country and thanked the Vietnamese people for the warm welcome of the museum. It was also moved when viewing the artifacts of medicine provided by socialist countries, including Cuba, to the Vietnamese people during the resistance war against the U.S. imperialists. He felt that the civil-military solidarity was the source of strength for the Vietnam People's Army to defeat all invaders. On the afternoon of May the 3rd, the first two trains carrying more than 1,000 troops of the Air Defense Air Force Service, Army Ceremonial Unit, Military Reason 4, and Corps 12 Armored Corps, who participated in the Grand Parade to the central and northern provinces from Biên Hòa Station, Đồng Nai Province, arrived at Hanoi Station. They received a warm welcome from the people in Hanoi. Lieutenant General Trương Thiên Tô, Vice Chairman of the General Political Department of the Vietnam People's Army, traveled with the Working Group Number 1. At Hanoi Station, over 500 veterans, militiamen, youth union members, and students of Hanoi were present to welcome the troops. These were the first two trains among 4 trains carrying the participants to the Grand Parade back to their units. We watched TV and saw that the troops practiced very hard for the Grand Parade. We're so proud. From the morning, we're waiting to welcome the comrades from the south. Along the way back home, the troops were always welcomed by the military and people of the provinces and cities in a solemn atmosphere and warm sentiment. The scenes reminded us of the image that the people welcomed the victorious troops in the past. The Grand Parade left good impressions, contributing to educating patriotism, the spirit of self-reliance and great national unity. There was great contribution from the heroic forces of the Vietnam People's Army. Showing thanks to the warm welcome of the leaders, military and people of the provinces and cities, Lieutenant General Trương Thiên Tô affirmed that the officers and soldiers of the Vietnam People's Army always uphold the determination, spirit of solidarity, discipline observance, and emulation to well perform the Grand Parade. Of the past 80 years of Vietnam People's Army's development, we've always received the protection and support from the people. That's why we can complete our tasks and the military can strongly develop. The returning of the troops concluded a special mission. Each officer and soldier not only completed an important political task, but also fostered civil-military relations. On the afternoon of May the 3rd, Hue City Military Command organized a meeting with officers, military and self-defense forces who successfully completed the parade mission in celebration of the 50th anniversary of the liberation of the South and National Reunification Day. Congratulating the forces, the leadership affirmed that it was not only the pride of its participating individual, but also the honor and pride of the local armed forces. Immediately after the meeting, functional agencies and units were asked to take the parade participants back to their families safely and thoughtfully. Coming up next, Vietnam aims to attract high-quality foreign investment. Vietnamese artist Vũ Cao Đam's painting auctioned in London. According to the Ministry of Finance, Vietnam is preparing to welcome a new wave of investment with specific strategies and measures. In particular, welcoming this wave has a basis for more effective implementation, with a strong growth and breakthrough of FDI in the first quarter of 2025. In detail, in the first quarters of 2025, Vietnam recorded 401 projects licensed in previous years, registering adjusted investment capital, with a total additional FDI capital reaching $5.16 billion, 5 times higher than the same period in 2024. There were also 810 registrations for capital contribution and share purchase by foreign investors in Vietnam, with a total capital contribution value of $1.49 billion, an increase of 83.7% of the same period in 2024. Notably, capital contributions to the processing and manufacturing industry still dominate, with 32.7%. Scientific and technological activities with $337.2 million, accounting for 22.7%. In addition, the realized FDI in the first quarter this year also reached the highest level for the first 3 months in the past 5 years. Taking advantage of the U.S. 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs, many Vietnamese enterprises are urgently completing export orders to this large market. According to many businesses, since the beginning of the year, they have increased exports to the U.S. market in order to ensure sales as well as maintain jobs for workers. Moreover, right after the U.S. announced a 90-day pause on reciprocal tariffs, enterprises immediately make plans to purchase raw materials and operate production lines at full capacity to quickly complete site orders. To adapt to the tariff issues that may arise this year, enterprises focused on strategic thinking and upgrading the country's position in the global value chain. In the short term, enterprises aim to maintain orders and market share and expand markets and export sectors in the long term. Farmers have the opportunity to rise up, and high technology is the tool for them to do so. In Hưng Yên province, high-tech agricultural models have been launched to bring Vietnamese agricultural produce to the world. The locals' determination to overcome difficulties and apply science and technology in farming production, also the determination to master science and technology of all Vietnamese people. As General Secretary Tô Lâm was noted, the science, technology, and innovation serve as the main driving force for development. On an area of over 30 hectares, Info Agricultural Service Cooperative specialized in producing leafy vegetables is supplied for different markets such as Hanoi, Haiphong, and other neighboring ones. In recent years, the cooperative has invested in over 10,000 square meters of net houses and greenhouses for the farming of vegetables and fruits. The application of high technology in production brings about high productivity. Farmers can grow clean fruits and vegetables that have brought them high income with economic value that is 20 to 30% higher. In addition to productivity and economic profit, high-tech application helps save labor. My family has 1 hectare. Previously, with that area, my families produced and sold at floating prices in the market. After joining the cooperative guaranteed the output and the cost price was raised by at least 20% compared to the market price. In District is currently home to more than 500 hectares of vegetables and fruits, thanks to the application of scientific and technical advances and new technologies in production. Many agricultural products have built their brands while duly affirming their position in the market. With high-tech application, up to now, the district owns 22 branded products under the One Coming, One Product program with barcode traceability. The district has supported the consumption of fruits and vegetables in labeling, performing administrative procedures, and granting traceability codes. Just like Hưng Yên Longan fruits, in the future, vegetables and fruits that meet VIET GAP standards in Hưng Yên province will also be exported to countries in the region and the world, such as China and the U.S. The aspirations of hardworking and creative farmers have been gradually realized on the fertile land of their homeland. The oil on canvas property of a lady of title by artist Vũ Cao Đam, 1908-2000, was sold at £45,000 at an auction held on May 2nd at London's Sloane Street Auctions. The auctioning of work by one of the most influential artists in Vietnam in the 20th century marks an important milestone in bringing the nation's art to the international market. As the first Vietnamese artwork ever auctioned at the Sloane Street Auctions, the property of a lady of title achieved the highest sale price among all artworks auctioned on May 2nd. It was on display at a solo exhibition of Vũ Cao Đam in London in 1976, hosted by the prominent Frost and Ritz Gallery.
And it's a very, very rare painting by the artist because it has full exhibition history. Since the day he painted it. It was in his first commercial show in London in 1960 and was bought by the now owner's father in that show. It has 3 figures in it, which is particularly unusual for the artist. Quite often he doesn't extend beyond 2 figures.
As one of the most influential Vietnamese artists of the 20th century, Vũ Cao Đam was part of the famed quartet of Vietnamese modern art in Europe, including Lê Phổ, Mai Trung Thứ, Lê Thiệu Lụ. After graduating from the Hanoi College of Fine Arts, Vũ Cao Đam traveled to Paris on a scholarship to further his studies at the École de Louvre.
And for my way of looking at it is like a Chagall of the East, really. He works between Vietnam and Paris, works very closely with Chagall, and there's a dream his work as being as good as some of the other sort of surrealists of his date. You know, he's a very important painter.
The London-based Sloanese Reup specializes in old master drawings and paintings, European furniture and works of art, Impressionist art, modern and contemporary art, photography, and private sales. Not only showing interest in Vietnamese art, Sloanese Reup also joined efforts to help disadvantaged children in Vietnam through supporting Facing the World, a UK-registered charity which has operated in Vietnam since 2007 to provide medical treatment for children born with cranial facial defects. It is the end of the English News Bulletin today. You will watch our news again at QPVN.vn. And goodbye and see you next time.